Thank you, President. As we've heard, the Minister for Energy has said that energy costs are going down, but the reality of families, of businesses, as they open their energy bills, they know prices are going up, and it is a huge cost to families. We are seeing, just in the recent quarter, prices going up by 16%. I've spoken to businesses, and energy bills, electricity bills are their biggest costs that they're facing. And it's adding to our rising living costs, and it's really crushing business productivity. Now, we know that supply and usage charges are going up further from the 1st of August, and the worst is yet to come. When you look at things like V&I West and the cost of that, and AEMO's recent report reflects much higher costs. I remember asking questions about this back in 2023. At that time, the reports were that the cost would be about $3.6 billion shared with New South Wales. Now we've seen in the latest reports that's looking more like $7.6 billion, and the upper end more like $11.4 billion. Now, who pays these costs? We do. It will end up on your power bills. Now, we've seen the impact of decisions and the anti-gas agenda of this government. Just recently, we've had Solstice announce that gas supply is being cut off to 10 regional towns, and the majority of those are in Northern Victoria electorate. And I've spoken with people impacted, with businesses impacted, and with families that have been impacted by that decision. And they are very fearful of what is to come as they're scrambling now to find out what to do, because they're being forced to change back. And yet we heard the Premier in question time yesterday talk about that policy, and she said it was a flawed policy because it was subsidies that have been removed, and that causes the price to go up. And yet we do see this government subsidising solar and wind developments, and we see the power saving bonus as well, trying to help families with these soaring energy bills. But you have to ask why the prices continue to soar under Labor. Now, I know Peter Hunt in the Weekly Times has talked about this issue, and he said households and businesses are already subsidising a third of every solar and wind developer's revenue through the hidden large-scale renewable energy scheme charge on electricity bills. And he goes on to say, despite being one of the most energy-rich nations, we face a future where large commercial and industrial users' electricity bills will double or triple over the next 5 to 7 years to cover soaring transmission costs. Now, just consider the impact of that. Consider the impact on businesses if they have to face that kind of escalation in costs. It certainly will cost jobs. Now, currently we export coal and we export gas. We are one of the world's top exporters, so that other countries can use these resources to manufacture products. But some do call it emissions offshoring, where components are manufactured in countries like China that have lower environmental standards than we do. And as I've mentioned before in this House, I have solar panels on my own home. But the first ones that we did have they've ended up in landfill. And I am concerned about what happens in 25 years' time when we have thousands and thousands of solar panels. I know in Colbernabon there's about over 700,000 solar panels going in. And we also have hundreds and hundreds of massive wind turbines going up, because at this point in time, when I've discussed that issue with others and during a recent inquiry, there doesn't seem to be any consideration about what is happening not too far away. But there is a cost, a huge cost, and we are paying for that, but not just financially. And I know Dr Mansfield talked about changing to electric so we cease reliance on fossil fuels, but and depend on renewables. But it's important to point out that with renewables and wind turbines, fossil fuels are used in the manufacture, the transportation, and also just in the operation and the installation of these facilities. So it's not easy to sort of say, you're moving away, because We've even had an information session here at Parliament that talked about with the increase in renewables, there will be an increase in mining associated with that, and particularly with batteries. They do rely on mining. But some of these projects, and I'm aware because I speak with residents, I live in the region, and they are, tearing some communities apart. Some people want to host a wind turbine, for example, and receive the financial benefit, and others don't want to have a 300-metre tall wind turbine forever on their landscape. And I know, speaking to a gentleman recently who's in business, he has a farm, and he talked about the impact of the buffer zone of the wind turbine that actually goes into his property. And I've heard from other families concerned about some of the caveats that are being placed on properties, which is causing some challenges when they go to sell. They don't realise what's been in the contract that they've signed. Now, there is a serious energy crisis that we are facing here in Victoria. There is going to be the closure of the Yallourn Power Station by 2028 and Loy Yang A by 2035. So they will take considerable gigawatts, 1.2 gigawatts and 2.5 gigawatts out of our energy system. And at the moment, those coal stations do run night and day and provide that firming and consistent power. But their departure will leave big holes in our energy supply. And we are energy hungry. Our lifestyle is certainly energy hungry, and we have a rapidly growing population. So we don't just need to replace our current energy supplies, we need to expand our energy supply to meet demand. And it's important to point out in a natural disaster, we see the chaos that happens when people don't have access to power. Everything shuts down very quickly. And in the rollout, the rush rollout that we're seeing of these projects, we're seeing massive developments on prime agricultural land, like in Colbernabin that I've referred to previously. And under this government, we've had the right of appeal through VCAT removed. And this government continues to use standover tactics, just with the bill that we're seeing, the VicGrid bill that's coming in. If you try and prevent a transmission company coming on your property, you could face a $12,000 fine. That is extraordinary. And when you talk about batteries, I know Mr McIntosh talked about batteries and how they're so advanced now. At Hazelwood, they announced the big battery, 150 megawatts, and it only powers 75,000 homes for 1 hour. We have 2 million homes in Melbourne, and we have a growing population, so that demand for energy is only going to increase. We still have a very long way to go. We need a balanced energy strategy, pragmatic mixed energy strategy that should be considered to ensure our long-term affordability, reliability and environmental responsibility when it comes to our energy supply. Now, Labor has created an energy crisis, and you wonder why your power bills are going up? Well, you can thank the Labor government.